there has been a bit of chatter, particularly on YouTube, at least that's where I have been seeing it, of Jamaicans carrying a Jamaican passport being removed from Mexico. And I really felt the need as a travel advisor, as a Jamaican national, to speak about these things. And I really hope that this is a video that will be shared and the contents adhered to, because I know enough to know that doing the right thing is always going to give you better results than throwing things against the wall and hoping it will stick. I don't really want to beat the actions of persons who have been reporting their experiences, because it's not a pleasant experience. I'll just start it there. And maybe one day, if you ask in one of our storytime chats, I will share my experience as a 17-year-old on student exchange returning from Spain. And at that time we used the blue Jamaican passport, that blue book as it was famously called. It was big and it was blue and you stood out. And how traumatized I was at that experience. And so I understand a whole lot more than persons might think, because I've had my own story. It wasn't a removal story of such, but it was a very hostile experience, particularly for a child. And when you are malhandled by adults who should know better, it's not very comforting. So the first video that caught my attention was posted by a senior citizen. I hope she's not offended, but if she has a daughter age 40 or somewhere there, I think she should be thrilled for the term senior citizen to be used to speak to who she is. Jamaican. And she gave the back story of arriving in Mexico and all of what happened. Of course, the end result was she was denied landing privileges in Mexico, and she was treated less than she ought to have been, and then sent back to Jamaica. And in her conversation, she said, without a motive. Now, my talk is really about how to prepare yourself. And I will draw inference to a situation that might have led to this. It might not, but I am strongly believing that since this incident or these incidents, we have been hearing this story more often. So we roll back the curtains to 2022, I want to say. The Marella Discovery was home ported. It's a cruise line out of the UK. The company that owns it is TUI, and they were home ported in Montego Bay, meaning their ship was docked, loaded and unloaded both supplies and clients, passengers, for the weekly 7-day sailing. So Jamaica was their home base, and everything happened in Jamaica for them. It was a wonderful opportunity for persons to just purchase their cabin, drive down to Montego Bay, board the ship, and off they go, sailing to wonderful destinations, including the Cayman Islands, Grand Cayman, Roatan, Honduras, Costa Maya, Cozumel, and other interesting destinations within the Spanish-speaking territories, which incidentally are our closest neighbors. And I participated as a travel advisor in all of these, or making a lot of these dreams come true for our Jamaican clients who just really wanted to hop on a ship from Jamaica, do their vacation, no need for flights, have a grand time and come back. Well, it just so happened that in that particular year, I had clients sailing, as did many other Jamaican-based agencies. And somewhere there was a bit of news that started to filter out, stating that Jamaican clients who did not possess a US visa would be denied boarding. And it was curious to me, but I'm busy doing what I'm doing. I'm selling, I'm talking to clients, I'm living life, I'm doing my thing. It was not something that really grabbed my attention until I got a notice directly from the supplier who I had booked this cruise through. As we work through suppliers, I might have mentioned that in my earlier video, and they indicated in a very carefully worded letter that based on the fact that my clients hold Jamaican passports, they will be removed from the sailing, and as a courtesy, a full refund of their cruise fare will be made to the method of payment. No further discussion allowed, etc. And of course, I went digging, and it did not take long to discover the main reason for this activity was the fact that in that particular instance, I think the week prior, or not long before, when the vessel was docked in Mexico, I'm not sure which of the ports, maybe 7 Jamaican passport holders chose not to return to the ship. As we say in Jamaica, they ran off. And it was a little bit confusing to me. I was like, why would Jamaicans run off in Mexico? The following week, or not long thereafter, another 10 took off. The police was called in, and some of them were recaptured. Sounds so bad saying it that way. Were found and returned to the vessel. And it also came to light that for each passenger who departs a vessel, a cruise vessel, before the end of the trip in a participating country, in a foreign country, the cruise line is penalized monetarily. There was a dollar figure that was bounced around. I have no proof, so I don't like to quote what is not factual. However, the cruise line was not impressed, and rightfully so. So therefore, my curious mind, my travel advisor mind, my in the travel industry mind when searching for answers. And you hear the world news, you hear what's going on, but if it doesn't really impact you, you certainly cannot ingest everything that is being said. What was discovered, however, was that persons who had disembarked in Belize as well as in Mexico and chose not to return to the vessel were making a pathway to the United States southern border. I was shocked. Call me crazy. Call me living in my own space and not realizing that persons are still trying to gain entry by whatever means necessary to the US. Be that as it may, they were returned to the vessel. The vessel, upon returning to Jamaica, communicated that now not only persons who did not have a US visa, but as long as you were Jamaican, as long as you took to that vessel your Jamaican passport issued by a sovereign nation where you have been accepted and hosted and allowed the privileges of home porting, you will not be allowed to board their ship. In my mind, that should have been an issue to be taken in hand by our Ministry of Tourism, and I had expected the Honorable Minister Bartlett to have some public discourse regarding this. I cannot say that it happened, I cannot say that it did not, but I can say I anticipated to hear something. Now, 2 years on or more, I am yet to hear anything. Can't say it hasn't been said. Now, that's just the backdrop for my discourse. So, having seen that senior citizen share her story, and then having just randomly seen a video sent to me, recommended to me by YouTube, saying that my mother was deported from the Mexican city of Cancun, the airport, I got very curious, because in that lady's video she mentioned that she was returning to Mexico. Now, I don't know the ins and outs, but what she stated is what I will repeat. She was being returned to she returned to Mexico, having spent a stint there prior, and she was denied entry. And the story of her daughter, who is a temporary resident, being contacted, verifying that she was coming to her, and the daughter in her video indicated she was bearing the expenses of the travel and all of that. The lady was returned home. Another video was recommended by the daughter, and that spoke of a Jamaican YouTuber who I've never heard of, and I was absolutely fascinated when I saw his channel. He does underwater discoveries, underwater activities. He has gear to die for. I wish I remembered his name. I'm sure I can find it, and I will put it there in the description. But it was awe-inspiring. I watched like 2 or so of his videos. I loved his wetsuit. I was in awe at his equipment. I love anything good. I love to see talent. I love to see skill. I love to see people being different and authentic, and I was blown away. And he shared in his community forum that he, having boarded AriaJet, and I will segue, because AriaJet started its flights. It's an airline, and AriaJet started flying in 2022 from its hub in the Dominican Republic, Las Americas International Airport, into Kingston. And there was this huge celebration 2 or so months ago, maybe, with a interesting set of statistics where the collaboration between Jamaica and the Dominican Republic had grown by leaps and bounds. And of course, AriaJet had been able to move from putting 2 flights per week between Jamaica, Kingston Hub, and Las Americas in Santo Domingo, because the demand was so great. And not only that, they had opened the gateway to travel throughout South America. And of course, I will have to share that there were some things that bothered me as a travel advisor. And these were based on the lack of ability to move visa-free within our territory that did not require visas. The airlift was too much of a challenge. The time to get around, the routes that we were taking were too long. And so I was absolutely happy to hear that AriaJet, I was invited to their launch, I was invited to their travel agent training. I didn't get to make it, but I followed up on Zoom, and I was in the know. I used the service for my clients, did not use it up to the point when my clients were traveling on it. It's a budget airline. I was able to gauge their expectations. They arrived into the DR, and those who were doing split stays did their stay in the DR and then did a few nights in Mexico, flying into Cancun. Now, just for reference, AriaJet also flies with its now I'm thinking in Spanish, with its first stop being in its hub, which is the Dominican Republic. They fly into Nicaragua, they fly into Colombia. I think they do Medellin and Bogota, Cartagena as well. And I know they do Guatemala. Did I say Guatemala? Guatemala, Nicaragua, Lima perhaps, and somewhere in Ecuador. Don't quote me. It's on their website. But they were opening the Caribbean and Latin America. And that was just absolutely amazing. So to hear this story, that all these clients who arrived in Cancun were turned away, and in this one particular quote, the senior lady, the senior citizen, stated that of 30 or so persons who were returned, who were denied landing in Mexico, 22 were Jamaicans. That was alarming. And it seemed to have continued. Now, this is going to be a long video. It might have to have a part 2, because I'm literally just setting the stage for what I want to say. But it bothered me because our people, our Jamaicans, have time and time again been treated less than they ought to be. I will jump to the end before I get to the middle, simply because I want to get this said. When you're traveling, you need to ensure that the receiving country can validate your reason for being there. It is their right. They protect their borders, they have their rules, they have their laws. We're not saying that what they do is always just right, fair, but what we're saying is, as the traveler, we need to provide these persons enough reason to welcome us. So, important to all our travelers, to our Jamaicans, ensure that you have accurate information and you know your information. We don't want you to have it on your phone that you need to look it up. You need to know where you're staying. You need to have an address. You need to ideally prepay your travel expenses. You need to have your clear knowledge of your funds. Credit cards make life so easy. Debit cards just the same. But there is a dollar figure that can put receiving countries at ease, knowing that you will maintain yourself without being a burden to individuals there or to the society in general. I have a little thought for YouTubers, and this might be taken less than I intend, but I'm gonna say it anyway, because I have seen many situations. There was one situation of a Jamaican YouTuber who was earning very well from YouTube, working hard, doing his craft, and making more than he worked in a call center. He was very happy, but he was having a challenge finding a place to rent in Kingston. And he presented his financials, his bank account, the frequency that funds were deposited there, enough that would validate that he, in theory at least, he can afford the rent for the place that he was seeking. His constant complaint was because of his age. He was very young, maybe young 20s. He was denied every single time. And at one stage, he took an adult, older person, maybe his mom or an adult lady, just to validate him. And so for that particular video, I thought, and I probably did leave a comment, he never responded, that YouTube is an emerging business and we need to treat it as such. And so because you are doing an emerging business that is not widely acceptable, particularly in Jamaica, go ahead and do what a business owner ought to do. Go and register your business. Go to the company's office and register as a sole trader. That's the starting process. Take out your tax credentials and pay your taxes over. Establish yourself in the marketplace as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, so that you present to the world the fact that you're legitimate. For you to be validated, it's not only money, it is who you are, it is your worth. Also, and this is a pain point, your content is not just for content's sake, because there might be persons who are seeing your content and it might not be the type of content that they think their country needs to be exposed to. So nobody can block you as a YouTuber. However, do I, the receiving country that you want to visit, want to open my doors to you because your content might be questionable? So you need to present yourself as a business. You need to ensure that your content represents you in the way that the world needs you to be seen. In this age of free market and this thought process that everything goes, everything really does not go. And some things can and will be held against you because of how it's presented or otherwise. So yeah, so I'll say that, leave that there. But more importantly, as we go back to our Mexico Jamaica situation, two or so points that I want to make mention of. We have in Jamaica the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We've got a Minister of Foreign Affairs. Her name is, I'm not sure if she is honorable, but she is Kamina Johnson Smith. And without getting into where my mind was going, just understand, and this is in direct reference to a post that she had on X, formerly Twitter, that stated her ministry and her incapacity as Minister of Foreign Affairs needs to have official reports to be able to act. So my request to persons who feel as though they have been dealt with unfairly, social media is a way to get it known, but it does not open the doors to the diplomacy that countries enter into so that they can thrive and grow. Please make your reports to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Be very detailed. Have your timestamps, have your activity records, have your facts with you. Make detailed reports so that your interests can be treated with the diplomacy that has been in place. Remember that we are a sovereign nation. Mexico, as in the case for this particular discussion, is a sovereign nation. We've got bilateral arrangements and we have rights. We've got lots of Jamaicans working in Jamaica. There are many Mexicans. I'm not sure if I said that right, but you understand, because I will not be editing this video. We have Jamaicans working in, we have Mexicans, I think that's where I went wrong. We have Mexicans working in Jamaica. We have Mexicans who came to Jamaica. Let's use Moon Palace, because that's a property, that's a hotel in Ocho Rios that I have frequented. And because of Ocho Rios being home, I have encountered Mexicans both in the construction process and here 10 years on with them being employed. So they would have had to start out with a work permit, and I would not be surprised that 10 years on there might have been those who have applied and have gained residency status and maybe even nationality. They have been landed, they have been naturalized, and they have received a Jamaican passport. And so all of these situations occur because of these bilateral arrangements that would have been negotiated in the past. And I give you this simple example. My very first time to Mexico in the early 1990s, I went with a Jamaican passport. I literally traveled on my Canadian landing paper. However, being a Jamaican passport holder, for some strange reason, I still needed a visa. Back then, Jamaicans needed a visa to go to Mexico. So I flew to the States with American Airlines, did not need a visa for that because of the bilateral arrangements at the time between US and Canada. However, to get to Mexico, I had to show and be validated with my Mexican visa. Now, with the passage of time, and if you think about that, that's over 30 years ago, things have changed and that visa requirement has been removed. However, at the border, at every admittance, there will have to be those immigration officers who validate your reason for being there. So a visa or visa-free access is not immediate validation of your reason for being there. One, you need to be able to sustain yourself. You need to know where you are going to stay. And your reason for being there must be for a non-income generating reason, because you've come to visit. Have those three at least carefully etched out. And shameless plug, use a travel advisor. Travel advisors have been trampled underfoot, and the real value of our services do not necessarily spring immediately to the surface, because the thought process is you go online, click click click, you book something, you make your arrangements, and voila, you're good to go. Not many people understand the value, the time, the training, the access that travel advisors have. We're your advocates. We're here for you. We have been prepared and trained, certified to ensure that the persons who choose our services, which typically it's no cost to you, because our suppliers, they pay us, not you. So basically, you're getting people who are ready to work for you for free, and you're not using those services. Instead, you go it alone. Don't do that. I'm gonna end this video here, but I really do invite quite a robust conversation. I look forward to having that in the comment section. And if no other video, this one I would love that you share, comment, and subscribe, because Sherry has a lot to say. And what is said could literally change the way you travel. So until we speak again, ciao for now.